Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SETA Berlin's web panel discussion entitled Trilateral Cooperation, Turkey, Poland, Romania, Strengthening Peace and Stability in Eastern Europe and Black Sea Region, ? My name is Zafer Meşe, coordinator of SETA Berlin. SETA Foundation for Political, Economic and Social Research is a non-profit research institute dedicated to innovative studies on national, regional, and international issues. Just some technical details, how we will proceed within the next 60 minutes. As a moderator, I will briefly introduce the topic and the panelists. In the first round, each panelist will have maximum of 10 minutes for a statement. In the second round, the panelists will have another 5 minutes maximum for additional comments. And in the third round, the panelists are invited to answer questions from the audience. We are interactive web panel. Well, in the last couple of years, bilateral relations and fields of cooperation between Romania, Poland, and Turkey reached an important point. By this, an increase in a remarkable way has been noted, and which could also open new opportunities for the entire region's future. It seems nowadays that this cooperation has much more potential. One of the early steps has been the initiation of a trilateral format aiming the cooperation process of these three countries. Also beyond bilateral schemes means with responsibility for peace and stability in the region of Eastern Europe, Balkans, and the Black Sea in a concerted way of the three countries. In coordination with strongly institutionalized international organizations, especially NATO and the European Union, the so-called, we call it also trilogue meetings have been held regularly since 2016 between the three countries. Their purpose is to strengthen cooperation between the allies within the NATO, representing the largest countries of NATO's eastern and southern flank, and to reach a common position on key regional security issues. That's why it was our intention to also organize this panel before the NATO summit in Brussels at the beginning of the week. So, consequently, the nature of the trilateral cooperation is not only political and economically, but also has relevance in terms of regional security. Furthermore, it seems an important and conceivable goal to also include additional countries such as Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia in order to establish a new and regional approach. By this, a further boost of the Eastern Partnership countries within the NATO may be achieved. This could also reinforce existing ties with the West in general, but also with institutions such as NATO and certain Western countries. Consequently, the potential of future fields of cooperation that might be based on the Eastern Partnership countries' effective tools may serve as a new opportunity for the entire Black Sea region as well as its peace and stability in the future. But having said this, it won't make any sense to discuss about the challenges in the region without taking into account the role of the major player Russia. Thus, and as a matter of fact, we also need to discuss about the relationship of Poland, Romania, and Turkey with Russia. Well, this is the task we have, and I would like to start the discussion with Professor Dr. Iulian Chifu, and allow me to briefly tell something about him. Iulian Chifu is a professor, is a prominent Romanian foreign policy analyst. He is the president of the Center for Conflict Prevention and Early Warning, a former presidential security advisor. He's professor at the Carroll the First, I think, National Defense University and the National University of Political Studies and Public Administration. And he is the author of the books Post-Conflict Reconstruction and Strategic Thinking. So my question goes first to you, Professor Chifu. We have let me start with the following question. The nature of the trilateral cooperation in terms of political, economic, and security from the perspective of Romania. I would like to ask you to give a statement. What is the interest of Romania in its aim to become a part of this trilateral dialogue? Is it economically purely, or is security related or political? And what is the big picture? What from the Romanian perspective has to be seen in order to engage in such an institution? And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for SETA as a whole for this invitation. And thank you very much for putting in the agenda such a theme as the Trilateral Romania, Poland, Turkey. Actually, let me make some very clear differences, because you know very well it is important to know how and what an organizational structure means, but it's also very interesting and very important to know what it is not. So making the real differences and putting in the correct framework makes sense in that framework. As you know, Romania is a EU NATO member already for 15 plus years in both cases, 50 plus years. In that particular case, we developed a system of partnerships with several countries. The strategic partnership with the United States is the most important. It began in 1997. We've developed a strategic partnership with Poland. We developed a strategic partnership with Great Britain, with Turkey, with Azerbaijan on energy field, and with South Korea on economics. It comes from different stages of our development as a country after the fall of the Berlin Wall. On that basis, the fact of being strategic partners with Poland and strategic partners with Turkey, actually, we just celebrated 10 years of strategic partnership with Turkey. We moved to the Trilateral. I was actually in an official position when we've signed this and begin those reunions. And actually, it's not 2016. We are celebrating next year 10 years from the Trilateral. And by the way, it will be Turkey who will host the 10 years anniversary. So we considered that inside NATO, and that's the framework, this trilateral Poland, Romania, Turkey makes sense on different accounts. I have also to confess that we tried to build a second trilateral, and actually for a quadrennial, if you want, including Sweden. As you know, Poland is already a strategic partner with Sweden. The missing part was our strategic partnership with Sweden. And with that, we would have had the full quadrennial: Sweden, Poland, Romania, and Turkey. What is behind the thinking? Actually, it's contradicting the fact that multiculturalism has been dead. You know, it's a common statement that has been made by two presidents and a prime minister of Great Britain, David Cameron at that time, Mrs. Merkel as a chancellor of Germany. Also, at that time, it was Sarkozy, Nicolas Sarkozy, the president of France. We tried to show that it is very possible to have this trilateral, this quadrennial agreement between countries that are in the case of Sweden, a Protestant one, in the case of Poland, Christian Catholic and Christian Orthodox Romania, and mostly Muslim country Turkey, that we can discuss all together, share our ideas, and move ahead in forging and trying to, via dialogue for sure, to converge in our positions. So that was the original idea. What we have now is actually the trilateral between Poland, Romania, and Turkey. How it acted? Yes, the basics are first and foremost political and strategic, if you want, in security field. Political because actually together with Sweden, Poland, and Romania, we are the three countries in the EU the most supportive for Turkey's accession in the EU. And I mean at the level of the population, at the level of the mass media, so the public space, and at the level of the official. It lasted all this time. If you take any other state inside the European Union, you will have a plurality of support, but in any case, it will mostly incline lately, at least in the last 5 to 7 years, on the negative side of support. So actually there's a type of rejection of support for the other countries for Turkey. That's another cohesive matter that leads to this cooperation. What we've done on the margins of NATO summits or aside of those margins, or on the margins of the ministerials in foreign affairs, in defense, actually what we have in hand is the ministerial at the level of Minister of Foreign Affairs. That's the format. We had meetings involving and inviting, besides our own positions, inviting countries from some other regions that are of interest. We had meetings with countries in the Western Balkans, in Brussels, on the margins of a ministerial. We had debates and meetings with countries from what we call the Eastern Partnership. And yes, we had in Bucharest, just lately, a month and a half ago, you participated, Zafer, the Trilateral, which invited Ukraine and Georgia just at the peak of the crisis of the Russian presence in the eastern parts of Ukraine, in the Black Sea, in the Kerch Strait, in the Azov Sea, in Crimea, the annexed Crimea as a whole. So actually we, all three countries, realized that we need to have this on both accounts. First, to listen to those countries and their aspiration. By the way, both have received in Bucharest summit in 2008 the perspective of NATO integration, Georgia and Ukraine, I mean. And because of the situation, we also needed to consult them before the summit to move ahead with all those issues and to include actually the most important parts of the concerns in the final declaration. So we had this reunion, trilateral first, and the format with the two other countries in order to have a legitimate input and a direct input for the future of the NATO summit. What I have to tell you is also that we have two other formats on the way. One format is the Bucharest Nine, which happens a week after. Bucharest Nine is a reunion of the 9 Central Eastern European countries from NATO, members of NATO, so Turkey is not a part of the B9, even though I suppose that there's an interest for that as well in the future. And we had this reunion at the level of the chief of state and governments. Also, Bucharest hosted it with the invitation of the President Joe Biden and the Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg. And we tried first to accommodate our own position and prepare for the next summit, for the summit on Monday, and to have common positions, and also to get on board the support of the US and that of the Secretary General in the perspective of the summit and of the final declaration. It's a format that has been invented some 6 years ago We developed this format, hosted, and the proposition was Poland and Romania at the basis of that format. We moved ahead for having a cohesive approach and for increasing all the possibilities to get what we needed for the eastern flank of NATO / of the EU inside the NATO summit final declaration and the other documents that the NATO NATO summits usually do adopt. The other structures that we've developed, that ones also with Poland and Croatia, was the 3Cs initiative. That one is more focused on economic affairs, but also strategic one. It's about infrastructure. It is interesting for NATO because it is about the capacity of moving troops all over this region, who is less vascularized, if you want, in terms of railroads, rapid railroads, and roads, and the capacity of also supporting some other level of weights, like, you know, when Abrams tanks enters our road, we are preparing them at a different level, so we couldn't host them. So that's the system, that's the framework. And in fact, the last point is that it's not a NATO inside NATO. It's not a separate thing. We are inside the alliance, and the only thing is about consultation, debates, dialogue, and convergence of the position that we are defending all together. Is the same with the trilateral. It's the most important countries in this flank, and I think that 10 years after, we can say that the deliverables are relevant.
Thank you, Professor. Can I just, I mean, it's really interesting because it seems that Romania in the region is the prototype of the country with a huge multilateralism approach when it comes to cohesive approach on various formats. And when we look at the position of Romania within the NATO, Romania is one of the countries which in its military expenditure is fulfilling the obligation of 2% of expansion of GDP, and also just trying to widen this kind of coalitions and of diplomatic platforms. It's very astonishing. And by the way, Romania is one of the countries which is really committed also to NATO missions. Romania is part of almost all missions worldwide of NATO, which is not the case of several Western countries, member countries of the NATO. What is it is kind of being part of the West, or are there other perceptions? Let's say the Russian expansionism, or what is the key driver?
We are trying to do our share, and yes, we are committed to the defense pledge. As you know, we have also succeeded in getting all of the spectrum support for the 2% defense pledge, and even there's a thinking that goes beyond that. We are still debating this after 2026, when these 10 years are exhausted, possibility to even extend that level of 2%. Second, the idea is that we think that we are doing more by being in the theater of operation than by sitting and making exercises behind our borders. And it's very important, in case we have more than 30,000 people that were in different shifts in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and I mean the most dangerous missions. I'm not talking about ISAF, about enduring freedom, about so actually we are covering all of those missions in order to have people prepared and prepare in real war, in hard conditions, to defend our country. The second point is that when we need to we are committed to the Article 5, and when we are thinking that we will need other countries to join us if Romania is under attack by Russia or whoever, because we are not only looking eastern. Yes, sure, it's our main threat in the region, but actually we are looking all over 360 degrees. We think that we have to do our share. We are the first responders. We are very conscious of this. We need to resist. 3 days for the VJTF. By the way, Turkey is leading this year, and with an exercise in Romania some weeks ago. Then the NATO response force, then the other allies can come in. And that's why we are committed and present everywhere. We have missions in Poland, as our Polish strategic partners have in Romania. We have presence in Turkey. And by the way, very firm commitment that if ever Turkey has to reach Article 5, we will be the first to go to defend Turkey if it is the case, because we are expecting no less from Turkey when something similar will ever happen, if God forbid it will happen with Romania. So I think that that's pragmatism. It's also commitment. It's showing the fact that you are a reliable partner. I don't know if you've seen some 2 days ago the transatlantic trends polling, by the way, about countries that are the most reliable in the region. And it's also a matter of trust and commitment. And I suppose that that's the best proof and arguments that you can give to your strategic partners in order for them to rely on you and at the same time to be reliable for you in the future. So actually, that's the basics. And last but not least, you know very well that we have we had two issues. We can find them in the final statement of the B9. We had two issues. First is the fact that it was a debalanced situation in the eastern flank. We had an enhanced forward presence in the northern part of the northern tier of the eastern flank, and tailored forward presence in the south. We hope that this debalancing will end with this summit in Brussels on Monday. The second point was that it was actually the only region, the West Black Sea region, where we didn't have a common threat assessment of NATO and an adaptable one. Once you have forces that are changing actually on daily basis, you need to adapt your threat assessments on the evolution more or less on daily basis, the way it happens. So it was an effort to have this. At the military level, the Minister agreed on the second point. With the first one, we hope that the final declaration will settle also this part. And for sure, I think that that's another point who can enforce our strategic partnership, our trilateral with Poland and Turkey, and it will also help on the developments afterwards.
Thank you, Professor. It's really interesting how Romania's engagement is astonishing within the NATO, within the region. It's most probably it is a very valued added to security and prosperity in the region. We even did not talk about economic relations, which is also
well, if you allow me just
okay, just shortly, yes.
You raised this. Just the fact of underlying that in terms of military capabilities, yes, we are investing 2%, but we are coming from low. If you want, we are looking very attentively of Poland to Poland, to our strategic partner who has developed in that field far more
yes.
than we are. We are doing more in the diplomatic fields because we have the skills and history in that field to get together different positions and to get together countries in different formats in such a way of reuniting a far more important support for the ideas that we are all defending. Sorry to extend my presentation more.
No, thank you. Very interesting. Thank you for your contribution in the first round, Professor Chifu. I will continue with Krzysztof Strachota. He is a researcher at the Center for Eastern Studies in Warsaw in Poland. And let me just give brief information about his background. Mr. Strachota is, since 2001, he is head of the Caucasus and Central Asia Department of the Center for Eastern Studies. And since 2012, he is also head of the Turkey desk or department. And within the center, he is the coordinator of a number of research projects, including studies of the evolution of Islam in the post-Soviet space, the war on terror after 2001, etc. He graduated from the Institute of Ethnology and Cultural Anthropology of the University of Warsaw in 1998. Well, welcome, Mr. Strachota. It's good to have you with us. Let me also start. I mean, the question will be similar because we need the perception from the from each country. So the nature of the trilateral cooperation, as mentioned, political, economic, and in the area of security, is also not to underestimate from the Polish perspective, especially when it comes to the perception of threat of security, of course. And I would like to ask you, what is the expectation of Poland from such a platform, and what is the role of Poland within that kind of a platform? What we know is that Poland is a member of the full member of the European Union. Of course, it's well known, and also NATO. And we have sometimes the impression Poland or the official government is relying more on NATO than on the European Union. Despite the fact, of course, these are different status of memberships. So my question to you is, you are a part, the country Poland is a part of the south and of the eastern flank of NATO, a very important country, which also is such like as Romania is very committed in its engagement within the NATO structures. And how can you, how do you assess this trilateral dialogue between Romania, Poland, and Turkey? And also, feel free also to talk about the not only the political, also economic relations, because what I know from Turkey is that Poland is a major partner in the bilateral trade relations, but I think we have to explain more than about economics. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Zafer, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here with you. Professor Chifu, thank you very much for great introduction to the broad context of the trilateral dialogue between Poland, Romania, and Turkey. And in fact, I like to focus on security issues because they seems to be the most important perspective from the Polish perspective, and I think it's also important in the current works on the trilateral meeting. I think about the last meeting of our ministers in Bucharest. So I think that constantly, I believe, trilogue combines the perspective on the Poland, Turkey, and Romania. At least I hope that it is. The assumption that Russia remains a crucial challenge to the stability and security of NATO states and our neighborhood. I will mention only this example is the intensive militarization of Russia, the diversionary and terrorist operation in UK, in Czech Republic, interference in US or French election, or the Brexit referendum, or the provocation, Russian provocation of the border with Syria, informal sanctions, and many others against Turkey, and many other things. One more thing is that assumption that the NATO is the pillar of our common security and requires the constant effort to adapt and to anticipate the challenges. The assumption that the NATO's eastern flank from the Arctic to the Baltic to the Black Sea and Mediterranean is the key front for alliance, let's say. That we are all experiencing increasing Russian pressure on our common neighborhood. I mean, aggression against Georgia, the annexation of Crimea, ongoing aggression against Ukraine, the stabilization of Belarus last month. Of course, the Russia's military expansion in Middle East and North Africa. That we face the common challenge of warring global processes, erosion of the international order, the revision of the world order linked to the China's expansion. China is getting treated as the major challenge for US and EU, mostly in the economic perspective, but anyway. Uncertainty about the Washington strategic potential and aims, tension between the allies from the, for example, Turkish US tension to the Brexit, which shows the tension between the UK and European Union. And other things. These challenges remain relevant and the risk is constantly growing. I mean, the risk connected with Russia. In this situation, in perspective of trilogue or the Polish perspective on trilogue, it appears reasonable and necessary to further joint pressure to strengthen the NATO's deterrence capabilities. It includes both cooperation on NATO 2030 reflection process promotion and DPP, I mean the defense planning process, ISR, and finally the civil resilience abilities in the context of the hybrid threats. I'd like to mention the establishment of Euro-Atlantic Resilience Center in Romania. Maintaining and restoring trust within NATO on the transatlantic line, but also between the European allies. Political friction, differences in the interpretation of the baseline values, economic tensions that requires constant efforts to improve. NATO as the whole, led by the US, is the most important break on Russian ambitions. For Russia, NATO's erosion or disintegration would mean the strategic and final victory, let's say. For strengthening cooperation between the pillar states of the eastern flank, I mean the Poland, Romania, and Turkey, as the stimulus for processes. It's not easy, of course. There are differences in potential, ambitions, international activity, and priorities between Poland, Romania, and Turkey, but still there are a lot of things very common. However, there are many reasons to be satisfied. I'd like to underline that the cooperation within the trilogue is the one of the first direction of diplomatic contacts of our countries after COVID. There are promising meetings of presidents, including the excellent President Duda and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan meetings last May in Ankara. The demand to raise this trilogue to the level of the heads of state, as well as the strengthening cooperation with our partners in Ukraine and Georgia. Development of military cooperation and defense industries between Poland and Turkey, for example, purchase of Bayraktars by Poland. That promising attempt to get out of particularities. In the past, Turkey, for example, blocked contingency plans for Poland. It was 2019 London. Now there is the Polish military contingent in Turkey, the Turkish troops in Poland, of course, Romanians in Poland and Poles in Romania. Anyway, NATO cooperation and our work within the NATO structures remain the absolutely basic and strategic platform for cooperation. And deepening it within the structures remains the priority from our perspective. But it's clearly growing need to become more actively involved in the security of our common neighborhood in Ukraine, in the Caucasus, in Moldova. There are strong foundation for this. Hitherto military cooperation, trainings, maneuvers, our common open door policy on NATO membership for Georgia and Ukraine. There is political will to stand together with Ukraine against Russian aggression, as was it evident, for example, most recently during the April crisis in Ukraine. I think it's important to synchronize these activities to apply synergies, for example, based on the Eastern Partnership. One of this level is Eastern Partnership's dimension to strengthen the resilience of the partner states. We can work on it. It's important that ad hoc and tactical objectives, for example, success of Azerbaijan and Turkey in the war of Azerbaijan's territorial integrity, do not ruin the strategic choices for the whole region, including the creation of the pro-Western option for pro-Russian now Armenia. Ending here, let me put some questions which are connected with my personal interest on Turkey, and the Turkey is important in that trilogy. Among us and within the trilogy, the Turkey is the country with the greatest potential, let's say, ambitions and more proactive policy on three continents. Turkey is the country which openly confronted Russia in Syria, in Libya, somehow in Caucasus and in Central Asia, because Turkey is the key pillar of NATO, with the military potential being one of the few capable to functioning as the NATO framework nation concept within this. But also there are some questions about the borders, limits, and aspects of the Turkish policy, because Turkey is the country with the little global policy. Russia is important for Turkey, but it's not the only one for Ankara. Russia is the rival for Turkey, which seems to be clear, but also it's a strategic, political, economic, and somehow military partner for Turkey. And it's interesting what are the red lines of Turkey's balancing, looking for its own interests? What are the risks for this? Let me end here.
Yeah, Krzysztof, it's a very legitimate question, which I have to say I will ask Murat Aslan. He will be in the position to answer you. But I have a question to you. I mean, you mentioned the countries Moldavia, Ukraine, and Georgia. And when we were together with Professor Chifu in Romania, we also had a panel regarding the stability and peace in the Black Sea region, and we discussed one issue. I mean, is there any potential that these countries of the trialogue could be kind of I don't know, organized mentorship for these three countries, Georgia, Moldavia, Ukraine? We know that Poland has very close relations with Ukraine. Romania, not only due to its border, also to Moldavia, and Turkey is a very important economic and political partner to Georgia. So that means this trialogue, to have another trialogue to support them via mentorship, and also to since they are somehow I'm not sure whether Moldavia is, but they are partners of the NATO, and I mean, without being in the NATO, these countries, Poland, Romania, and Turkey, can they not be let's say the drivers for in terms of secure defense cooperation with the Ukraine to bring their NATO to level up their in military industry on NATO level standards? So shouldn't be there practical on the ground cooperation, maybe without naming it, to have a more closer relation? It means this trilateral cooperation encompasses not only Eastern Europe, South Eastern Europe, the Black Sea region, but also the Caucasus area. So the coastal states of the Black Sea region, which Poland not is, but is. What is your idea on that?
I completely agree with you. old Polish perspective to cooperate with Ukraine, with Moldova, with Georgia. We are very in favor of Eastern Partnership.
Do we have a toolbox? Do we have something we can, on the ground, in a very pragmatic way, help these countries?
I think that there's enough things to synchronize, let's say. I think that unilateral activity of Poland, Romania, and Turkey is big enough to combine and to create the new level of this pressure. So I think it's obvious.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your statement, and I will come back to you. Now, I will, last but not least, I will bring in Murat Aslan. He's researcher foundation, SETA Foundation in Ankara. Just briefly about his background. He graduated from the War College on the field of management in 1991. He assumed varying tasks and appointments in Turkish armed forces, and he then graduated from master's program and PhD program in the International Relations Department of Middle Eastern Technical University. He preferred to be retired in February of 2017 from the Turkish army to be involved in academic studies. His field of expertise are on power, intelligence, and propaganda conceptualizations and practices in the fields of defense and security studies. He's currently teaching in Hasan Kalyoncu University and researcher in Security Studies Directorate of SETA. Well, welcome, Murat. My similar question also goes to you. So what is the expectation of Turkey from the trilateral cooperation with Romania and Poland? It's more than military, more than economy, more than security. Can you clarify, or can you help us? And could you also touch upon the very interesting relationship for Russia-Turkey, because there is no one opinion about it. There are so many different opinions because of the nature of the bilateral relations, which is not a strategic, but which is in some areas very close. Some areas are not. Turkey is against the expansionism of Russia in the Ukraine, does not it does not accept the annexation of the Crimea, etc. So the floor is yours, Murat.
Thank you, Zafer. You know, the question of Krzysztof is on me. I know that, and I will touch up on that, by the way. Thank you for this event, because we really need such kind of events, not only to express ourselves, but also to touch some new emerging trends, not only in international politics, but also transnational issues, because we usually forget it. We mostly talk about security, military, hard security concerns, Russia, for instance. Well, it's now beyond that. So if you take the relations of these three countries, I think the first issue should be discussed is first communication. Well, communication is a good thing. If it lacks, that means you are teared apart. If you have the ability to understand the other, then you can build empathy. You can adopt the position of the other to your own concerns, and also enjoy support in the coming term, during the coming terms. So the relations, trilateral relations of these three countries, for the first, in the first instance, is building a type of channel, conduit among these countries as a model. Well, if you go through the map, Poland is at the up northeast of Europe, with a touch to Baltic Sea, with a small touch to Russian border, and later then Belarus and Ukraine at the eastern part, and Slovakia at the south. And Romania is not or does not have a border with Poland. And Turkey is the same. We don't share a border in the land, but we share a border in at sea. So such a position on map maybe would push us to, just forget the relations and sail by yourself. But it's not the issue. Now, we are living in a globe that countries in remote distances are in close contact. Well, yesterday, I purchased some goods for the home. The shampoo, for instance, was imported from Poland. If you go to the other shelf, you can find Romanian goods. And if you go to a market in Poland, I think you can see Turkish or Romanian. That means now countries are much more interconnected. If there is an exchange of money among the countries, among the publics, among the individuals, then states are destined to facilitate it. And if you add the aspects such as security, military, political solidarity, then you can enlarge, expand this cooperation. I think this is exactly what we are, experiencing right now. And if you go through the, if you question this process, I think you should first ask what the status or state of these countries in terms of, for instance, similarities, in terms of threat perceptions, in terms of, for instance, their status in international politics, in the structure. Well, similarities are much more than we think, because we are exposed to the similar risks, not only in military terms, but also in economic terms, in trade-relevant issue fields in question, in politics, in, for instance, new threat types, soft threats. Second thing, perceptions. Well, we are situated at the east of Europe, I said. Then, this part is a type of shield of the overall Europe, and if we do not coordinate among each other, then just forget about an overall success, say for NATO or for the EU. Well, Turkey is not a member of EU, though. Turkey is part of EU security. If Turkey, for instance, faces a great challenge, let's take Daesh threat, then it is in Europe too. Then Turkey is not only a gate, but part of European security. So that's why such type of cooperations are much more important, vital for the security of not only these three states, but for the overall Europe. And concerns, threats and risks. Well, it may be a perception, though. There are existing issues. Then let me go to the question of my friend. Well, threats are usually depicted as countries, like Russia. Well, it's wrong. Now, we have new threats, I said, soft threats. Immigration is one issue, but it's not the only. For instance, pandemic. What about natural disasters due to climate change? Think that if we perceive these three states, situated apart from each other, no, we are wrong. The new threat types affect overall countries, even though they do not have any touch on them. So we need what? A common vision, a common intention, a common mission to the least agreeable extent. Well, every country does have a vision for themselves. For instance, I had gone through the security strategy of Poland. of Poland? Well, if you have it and compare it with the Turkish strategy, the general terms, let me say, they are the same. If you go through the Romanian, I didn't read it, sorry, but I think it should have been the same. Then our visions, say on security, say on economy and trade, say on soft emerging trends, should be accordingly identified by the countries that perceive themselves be exposed to the common threats. Intention, that means the limits of how to engage these threats. If these three countries or any other country does have a different intention, that means conflict at political level starts, because the design that you imagine in your mind in responding threats is really important. A really apparent sample for that is Syria. For Turkey, PYD is the extension of PKK, and YPG is the armed wing of it as part of PKK. Then Turkey preferred just wished the United States support the moderate Syrian opposition in 2015, but the US said no. They went to the other side, to the east of Euphrates River, and supported PYD. What does that mean? The intention of the United States challenged Turkish intention. Now we have conflict. We have ideationally, created conflicts with the United States. Mission. Well, regarding vision and intention, countries identify different things to do lists. And this is really important. If there is no common understanding on what to do and how to do and up until what time frame and where with a priority, then the countries will be more weakened if their benefits are the same. So for the Turkish perspective, this is my observation, I think Turkey expects a common approach among the country, in the trilateral dialogue. By that way, we can assist each other in the problems that we cannot, respond adequately. This is one issue. And the region that we are facing altogether is full of that. Well, Black Sea, Caucasus, Russia, and many others. We don't know what will happen in Belarus, for instance, and it will have effects on Ukraine. For Ukraine, it's a potential, seems to be a frozen conflict, but there is no conflict on earth which is frozen. So anything that occurs in these countries will affect the stability of the neighboring countries. That's a fact, not only in terms of military, but as you can easily observe from the Syrian case, by means of immigration, by means of decreasing level of economic interaction. Another issue that I want to delineate is what to do in the coming period for this trilateral dialogue. It's important because in the current era, we are just approaching an era of regional arrangements. Why? Because right after the globalization, some countries and societies tend to localize themselves, to protect themselves. On the other hand, now we are going towards a regionalization process, because even in the shared, international organizations, there is a competition. So regional arrangements may push or may make the weak or developing states be more solid against imposed rules, imposed acts, or imposed something, whatever. And for this, I think we should create an axis of cooperation, and the eastern flank is really an opportunity. Another issue, we can coordinate what to do against the new types of threats and augment each other. Maybe an expansion in this axis may be discussed. So these are the issues that seems to be missing nowadays. On the other hand, we have to be aware of one thing. Finally, we are living in an international environment that multipolarity persists. We had great powers at the 18th century. We had superpower later then, right after the invention of the nuclear weapons. And later then, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, we have what? Hyperpower, right? But right after the invention of asymmetric warfare, we don't have any power because asymmetric strength challenges all types of powers. That means in the realm of multipolarity, regional arrangements among the countries will make them much more strong against the systems they have created in their closed spheres. Russia, China are examples for that. United States, maybe EU, but please don't forget, these countries are part of a competition among this multipolarity, that developing ones, the ones who are not dominant, should protect them inside. Thank you.
Thank you, Murat. It's you also not only described the position of Turkey, but also outlined the future of the trilateral cooperation in terms of how it could be more sustainable successfully in future, and you laid the basis on that. It starts everything with empathy. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the other, etc., which is really good, which also is corresponding with what Mr. Professor Chifu said, that with the getting involving to aiming to involve Sweden within this trialogue, that it's also value-based trialogue. So that means the all confessions of Christianism and somehow the Muslim world are involved in a let's say cultural, also against clear message against clash of civilizations, etc. It fits, and well, I think we have to shorten our session, and I have two questions, one for Professor Chifu and one for Murat. I would like to first just redirect the question to Mr. Professor Chifu. The question is, where does the eagerness of Romania to involve in all those formations emanate from? What drives Romania to push for such multilateral structures?
Well, actually, thank you very much for asking this, and I'm very happy to hear from the other colleagues, from Krzysztof and from Murat. Their insights, you've seen, it's a complementarity at all. We are looking at this as instruments. Yes, we are not the same country. We have different opinions. There are issues where maybe we are not eye to eye. It's true that we are not conflicting each other, and we are more conscious on what is common to all of us than on what is dividing us. And I think that is driving the trilateral. And all in all, as all the institutions, as all the structures, they are sustainable as long as they are useful for all the members. And that's actually the thinking behind the whole establishment, diplomatic strategic establishment that we've developed all together. Second, you've asked, and we've heard already mention this, how to act with our neighbors. Yes, we are close to Republic of Moldova, as you know. It's actually the same nation, and it's the second Romanian state as we are assessing it. With Ukraine, we are on the way of doing our strategic partnership, as long as there are some minor differences who could be overcome. And yeah, and if and with Georgia, actually, we are developing a lot of things. What I would like to quote here is the national security strategy, as I'm still working, it's the second one after the one during President Timofte in Republic of Moldova. We were a part of the security, the SSR, the reform, strategic reform in Ukraine. And we are part of the whole process of DCBI, which is also a project of NATO defense capacity building in Ukraine. In Georgia, we've developed a lot of projects, including the critical infrastructure protection. We were involved in all of this. Don't forget that actually in Bucharest, we have two centers. One is the European Center for Cyber Defense. And with this establishment last year, I have also to add the fact that Romania was the head responsible of the task force for cyber defense of Ukraine in 2014 at NATO summit in Wales. We are involved with the cyber defense of Republic of Moldova, of Georgia at the same time. And the second one as a pair, this is European Center, is the future center.
The first one was NATO operation.
On resilience. Okay. Yeah, you already know it is. It begins with a national approach. All the strategic partners in Poland and Turkey are part of the group, and we are waiting for them to develop the whole process. So this is also a way of thinking instruments, because actually resilience and cyber defense are one of the main where we can come with added values from Romania, from the region, to our partners, either in Western Balkans, either in Eastern Europe. And I think that's the way that we are thinking those issues, in trying to have suitable and multiple instruments on the table in order to solve our issues. And I mean the security, the defense one, in the economy at the same time. But here we are, as you know, countries that are relying on the market economy, and there's a full range of capacities that are acting without the intervention of the state, the direct intervention of the state. So actually, that's the way that we are thinking this system, and that's the idea of the multilateralism that we are looking at. And we are looking at the new two types of instruments that are supposed and are nascent. As you know, we are presidents for the second year on the road of the Summit of the Democracy of the summit, the Community of Democracies, and we are waiting for the summit that President Biden already announced. And the second instrument that is of the new era, the new Biden administration, and a new instrument for the future is the Forum for Multilateralism that France and Germany are proposing to the democracies all over the world. And actually, these are the new instruments to come. I'm very sorry it's a little bit institutional, but actually these are the instruments in the modern times diplomacy. You can't do diplomacy only by your own, knocking at the doors of your partners and trying to engage. Actually, if you want to do a diplomacy at a higher level, at least meaningful for the region, meaningful for a broader institution like NATO or EU, actually you need to do it that way, to build up your instruments, to get together the support of your other country, to coagulate and to have a common approach and convincing approach supported by a number of countries, like-minded for sure. And that's the way to do things in our modern world. I think that all our colleagues are supporting this idea, and that's why we are all together in this trilateral and so forth.
Thank you, Professor Chifu. By the way, the question came from Serdar Dingel via YouTube, and the other question is for Murat Aslan from Adam Michalski. The question to Mr. Aslan is, with the Erdogan-Biden meeting just around the corner, do you think that there is a window of opportunity to revitalize Turkey-US-NATO relations in the context of S-400, F-35 and Greece?
Thank you for the question. Well,
it's a big issue, so
yeah,
but you have to cover.
But I'll cut it short. I know. Okay.
I will come later to Krzysztof. That's why.
Okay. First, if you want to answer a question regarding Turkish-US relations, I don't see any problem regarding Turkish-NATO relations. It's a wrong perception. Turkey is part of NATO, and there is no deviation of any commitment on Turkish side, and the same is valid for NATO side. So I think the question should not include NATO. But right after Turkey and the United States had some problems on the ground, and he has actually listed it, some American scholars, sounded Turkish NATO membership as a question mark. No. It's not a question mark. There is no mechanism in NATO to expel any member state. And full stop. Second thing, Turkey's approach to Turkish-US relations is very brief. Turkey does want to have, constructive relations with the United States, but it should not be one-sided. That's the issue. What I mean is that if Turkey is in danger, if Turkey does have a concern, the United States should not prioritize only the interests of themselves, but also should build an empathy. Today, the problem of Turkey with the United States is twofold, not three. Turkey's problem with terrorism, countering terrorism, this is the first issue. And PKK has been the major organization for that. And the second one is, again, terrorism. It's about FETÖ issue. If you go through the deep, reasonings of the current problems, you can easily see this. For instance, if you go to the streets of Turkey and ask who, committed July 15th coup attempt, people say FETÖ. And a second question comes, who supported FETÖ in this coup attempt? They will say, with minor exceptions, the United States. Well, I don't say it's true. I don't say they are right, but this is a perception.
Yes.
And perceptions does have reflections to the policy-making processes. Second thing, I think there's a structural tendency in the Western Hemisphere right after 9/11. The first one is about Islamism. For instance, I was in Bosnia. For the first time, I heard a term from a French mouth, and later then the US officers repeated it, and later then I saw it in the dictionaries, in the texts. Islamist. What does Islamist mean? Do we say Christianist? Do we say Jewist? No. That means there is a sense of, concern equating religion with terrorism. So it's wrong. And I think Turkish identity with a Muslim dimension, Islam dimension, agitated the US thinking. This is the first one. Second one, once Turkey acts independently in the regional issues, I think the US started a strategy to impose on Turkey, second, deny Turkey, and later then sanctify Turkey. But if we are living in an anarchy, if states are responsible for providing security for the citizens, then you should respect it if you are an ally. I think this summit will be a turning point because Biden had recognized the so-called Armenian genocide on April 24th, and Turkey did not harshly react to it. And the president announced that we will have a summit on June, we will discuss and we will see, and later then we will identify our role. So for the Turkish mentality, this summit is somehow a type of turning point in the relations with the United States. If both countries, go to the least grounds that they can agree, I think no problem. If both countries just diversify the problems among themselves, no problem. But if the United States continue to support PKK in Syria, and we lose people, lives in Turkey or at the north of Syria, that means that's the problem. Thank you. I think that's a clear answer.
Thank you, Murat. I have a question, the last question from my side to Krzysztof. Krzysztof, when we talk about Russia, it seems that Russia, because of serious economic problems in the years to come, will refrain from subsequent military intervention in its very, very near abroad, and will focus on placing the three countries, Moldova and Moldavia and Ukraine and Georgia, under even greater economic and social pressure. So what could be in concrete measures from this trilateral dialogue we discussed already in future for these countries, apart from resolutions, from public statements? Will be there a further further increase of regional cooperation with these countries, and which role could have this trilateral platform? Oh. Partially you answered the question, I know, but maybe we can sum up, because this is from the countries who were object of such suffering is quite important. So this is my question to you.
Oh, it's a huge question. Thank you very much. I am not ready to answer it fully. Anyhow, first of all, is the political support for this country, which in fact is on the way. The second thing is the support for internal political stability. I think Georgia is a very nice, very good case in the last, because of very internal crisis. I think the European Union involved in the dialogue between the opposition and government. It was a good step from the European Union. I think that our three countries got also some abilities to be a part of in similar crises. The third thing, as I said, is working together on resilience of this country. I mean, not the hard security, but on the security of on the civil level, with the institution, with things like this.
Well, I think we are coming to the end of our session. I'm really honored to have you guys with me. It was enlightening and substantial. Really, thank you for your contributions and for the future of this trilateral cooperation. I have learned that it's very important to look at the regional specificas and build up on regional arrangements. But in any case, to be aware of the fact that you have partners, and you have to know how they are. They have their decision making, have their means to put your shoes. To put yourself in the shoes of the others, And this is something huge challenge and opportunity for these three countries to include more of similar understanding of regional politics and of awareness for democracy and for stability and for peace. And what I take, the lesson I've learned is that this trilateral dialogue could become really a center for further development of regional cooperation in the area of Eastern Europe, the Black Sea region, in the Balkans, and in the Caucasus. I thank you very much to all of you and hope to see you again at some other opportunities. Professor Chifu, I will most probably see in Antalya next week, and we can deepen the discussion over there. Thank you very much to all panelists. Have a nice evening and see you soon again, hopefully.